The tuxedo was still hanging by the window when the knock came. Soft, hesitant, like whoever was on the other side knew they were about to drop a grenade in the middle of my morning. I was standing barefoot on the hotel carpet, a glass of whiskey in my hand, staring out at the skyline of Seattle as the sun broke through the clouds. I hadn't even put on my shirt yet. I was calm, too calm, like the kind of calm a man feels before a car crash. You know it's coming, you just don't know from where. We were 6 hours away from the ceremony. The guests were flying in. The hotel staff was already icing the champagne. My parents had sent a ridiculous flower arrangement to the bridal suite. I remember laughing about it last night. Jessica said it smelled like a funeral home. I should have known that was a sign. The knock came again. I opened the door and found Emily, Jessica's cousin, standing there. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near me until the reception. Her hands were shaking. She wasn't wearing makeup yet, and her face was pale, like she'd seen a body. What happened? I asked before she even opened her mouth. I shouldn't be the one telling you this, she stammered. But I can't just pretend nothing's going on. I was bringing Jessica her bouquet, and she wasn't in her room. She wasn't in the spa. She wasn't anywhere. Then I saw her outside, near the parking garage. She was getting into a car with someone. What do you mean someone? Who? She hesitated. Tim. I blinked. My Tim. Yeah. I swear I heard glass shatter. But the glass was still in my hand. It was something in my chest, something important, breaking in half. You're sure? I whispered. I wish I wasn't. I don't remember closing the door. I just remember silence. Heavy, violent silence that screamed louder than anything. My first instinct wasn't to cry, or scream, or call her. No, my first instinct was to sit. Sit and watch the damn tuxedo sway gently on the hook like some sick joke. They didn't even bother to wait until the wedding. Hours before I was supposed to say my vows in front of over 100 people, my fiancée and my best man were gone. Together. But it didn't add up. Not yet. Jessica and I hadn't been fighting. Not really. A few weird moments the past month, sure. A couple of late-night texts she swore were just her sister. A canceled lunch. A nervous laugh when I asked if she was still happy. But infidelity? This. Now. I started pacing the room. My phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. Check your email before you say I do. You'll thank me later. No name. No signature. No second message. I opened my inbox. There it was, one new email. No subject. Attached. A file named vid_0548.mp4. My fingers hesitated over the screen. I didn't want to watch it. Every cell in my body screamed not to open it. But I did. I couldn't breathe. The video started with hotel carpeting, identical to the one beneath my feet. Then the camera panned up. Jessica, sitting on Tim's lap, wearing the same robe I'd bought her for the bachelorette weekend. Her hair was up. Her smile was real. And they were kissing like this wasn't the night before her wedding. I dropped the phone. The whiskey glass followed. My vision went white for a second. Not from rage. Not from heartbreak. From clarity. That moment where you realize everything you believed, every memory, every plan, is a lie dressed in white. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I just stood there, barefoot on broken glass, watching my life burn. And then, very slowly, I smiled. Not because I was okay. I wasn't. I was unraveling. But somewhere deep down in the pit of my stomach, something cold and sharp began to form. A plan. If Jessica and Tim thought they could turn me into a punchline, they had no idea who they were dealing with. They wanted a spectacle? I was about to give them one. And it would be the last thing they ever forgot. The first thing I did was laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because the sound of it, raw and broken, felt like the only thing I still owned. My hands were bleeding from the glass. Didn't care. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't even glance at it. What could anyone possibly say now that would fix the image burned into my brain? Tim. My best man. The guy who helped me through my dad's funeral. Who stayed up drinking bourbon with me after my first big promotion. Who'd been in every chapter of my adult life. And Jessica? My fiancée. My supposed partner. Who cried in my arms when she said she'd never been loved properly before me. Who said she wanted to grow old with me, on a porch somewhere, 2 dogs at our feet. Now they were 2 bodies tangled in a grainy hotel video file. just hours before our wedding. I wasn't numb. I was electrified. Like my blood had been replaced with cold gasoline and someone had just lit the match. I needed to see them. Not to yell. Not to beg. I wasn't going to give them that. I just needed one look. A single glance to make sure this wasn't some surreal nightmare. That this betrayal wasn't a fever dream brought on by stress and late-night whiskey. I left my hotel room, still in pajama pants and a blood-streaked white tee, not even bothering to put shoes on. I moved like a ghost through the hallways, past maids and bellhops, past wide-eyed guests who recognized me but didn't say a word. Let them stare. I knew where Tim would be. He was in room 211. Had been since Thursday. I'd booked it myself. Right next to Jessica's suite for convenience. How poetic. I stood outside his door and lifted my hand. I didn't knock. I banged. 3 times. Loud enough to wake the floor. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then movement. A whisper. A soft shuffle. I recognized the sound of her voice, muffled. Then his. Definitely his. Cowards. I didn't wait. I walked to the front desk. The girl behind the counter gave me a smile that died the second she saw my face. Blood. Glass dust. A shaking jaw. I need a key to room 211, I said. She blinked. Sir. I'm not sure, I'm the groom. You've seen the welcome packages with my name on them, right? You know who I am. Get me the key. She hesitated. But fear makes people obedient. A minute later, I had it. Room 211 opened like a church door. The room smelled like her perfume. Familiar. Floral. Expensive. The kind I bought her for our 2-year anniversary. Jessica stood near the bed, fully dressed but pale, her hair messy. No makeup. She wasn't ready for the ceremony. She hadn't even tried. She froze when she saw me. Eyes wide. A flicker of guilt, then gone. Like she'd rehearsed this moment. Tim was sitting on the couch, shirtless, holding his shoes. Also frozen. I shut the door behind me slowly. None of us spoke. Not at first. Then I said, so this is how you two decided to spend our wedding morning. Jessica opened her mouth. Closed it. Tim stood. Look, man. Don't say a word. My voice was low, controlled, and something about that scared him more than shouting would have. Jessica stepped forward. This isn't what it looks like. I actually smiled. It's exactly what it looks like. But I guess you've got a lie chambered anyway, right? What's it gonna be? You tripped and fell into his lap? He was helping you stretch before the vows? She said nothing. You recorded it? Tim asked suddenly, his voice cracking. That confirmed it. They knew. Jessica's eyes darted to me. You saw the video? Yup. I was drunk, she said. I tilted my head. Drunk. On a Wednesday. In a hotel room. With my best man, who you also just happened to ride off with this morning. I stepped forward. She backed up. Let me guess. It didn't mean anything, right? It was a mistake? Just a moment. I panicked. She shouted suddenly, and there it was, the mask breaking. I freaked out. Okay? You were always so perfect, and I didn't know if I could live up to that. Tim and it was stupid. We thought we'd stop. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Tim looked like he wanted to crawl under the rug. I stared at them. This wreckage. These two pathetic people. You didn't just cheat, I said. You made a spectacle out of it. Hours before our wedding. With my best man. In my hotel. Jessica's voice dropped. Please don't tell anyone. Don't ruin this day. Think of your family, our guests. I laughed, loud and bitter. Don't ruin this day? You two lit the damn thing on fire and pissed on the ashes. I turned to the door. Put my hand on the knob. Wait, what are you gonna do? Tim asked, voice trembling. I looked over my shoulder. My smile was cold now. You'll see. And they would. Because the ceremony was still happening. And everyone would be watching. I walked out of that room without slamming the door, not because I wasn't angry, but because I wanted them to feel the silence. That creeping dread when you don't know what the other person is planning. Let them sit in that hotel room, soaked in their own guilt, chewing on every second I wasn't in front of them. Back in my suite, I cleaned the cuts on my hands. Slowly. Methodically. The pain was grounding. Real. Every time the alcohol hit raw skin, I felt more awake. More focused. I wasn't falling apart. I was sharpening. I wasn't the broken groom anymore. I was a man on the edge of something far more dangerous. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled my laptop out, and stared at the screen. The video file still sat there in my inbox. I watched it again, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to remember. I needed to keep that burn in my chest fresh. No numbness. No forgiveness. Not this time. The first 30 seconds were shaky. Whoever filmed it was either nervous or in a rush. But then the camera steadied. Jessica. Tim. Her robe slipped open, her laugh low and intimate. Tim kissing her shoulder. The audio was quiet, but I could hear her say it. We'll be quick. He's probably still asleep. He's probably still asleep. I closed the video. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I started writing. 3 hours left until the ceremony. I made a public post on Facebook first. Not private. Not friends only. Wide open. I attached a screenshot from the video, just enough to hint, not enough to get taken down. A still of Tim's hand on Jessica's hip. My caption? Turns out my fiancé and best man had other plans for our big day. Ceremony still on at 5 p.m. Don't be late. Then I created an event. The real wedding unveiled. Live stream starts at 5. Within minutes, people started messaging me. Some thought it was a prank. Others were confused. A few, those who knew me best, called me, but I let every call go to voicemail. Then I messaged my buddy Lucas, a tech whiz I'd known since college. We hadn't talked in months, but I knew he'd pick up. He owed me. I'd bailed him out of a copyright lawsuit back in 21. Lucas, I said when he answered, how fast can you help me set up a stream with private access and donation options? There was a pause. For what? I've got a story to tell. And some footage to show. Think Jerry Springer meets Twitch. You in or not? He laughed, confused. Dude, are you high? Nope. Just betrayed. And wide awake. He went silent for a second. Then, all right. What do you need? Within the hour, we had a private streaming page. Branded. Sharp. Password access. Donations linked to a clean, custom PayPal. All proceeds go to a marriage fraud victims charity. I named it that. Just for the poetry. The live stream page had a countdown timer. At the stroke of 5, I'd walk down the aisle. Alone. Mic'd up. Camera rolling. Footage queued behind me. Every guest in the hall would see what she did. I'd narrate it like a documentary. Calm. Measured. Devastating. I wasn't just exposing her. I was turning my heartbreak into a damn fundraiser. 2 hours left. I still hadn't told my parents. Or hers. I figured they'd find out the same way as everyone else. Let them watch the destruction unfold in real time. If her family wanted to stand behind her, fine, but they'd do it knowing exactly what kind of daughter they raised. I changed into the tux. Black. No boutonniere. No cufflinks. Simple. Clean. Funeral attire, fitting for what this day had become. At 4:45, I made my way to the ballroom. The staff was bustling. Guests were trickling in, laughing, taking selfies, clueless. The string quartet was rehearsing the entrance song, Can't Help Falling in Love. I nearly choked on the irony. Then I saw her. Jessica. In the hallway. Alone. Wearing the dress. The same one we picked out together 6 months ago. The one she said made her feel like the only woman in the world. She looked right at me. Her lips parted, but I held up a hand. I'm not interested in your apology, I said coldly. Just make sure you're sitting down at 5. You won't want to miss it. She frowned, confused. What are you? You'll see. And I walked past her, leaving the scent of revenge thick in the air. At exactly 5 o'clock, the doors to the ballroom shut. Not with a bang, but with that heavy, padded finality of a coffin lid. Every guest was seated, the lights dimmed slightly, and soft music played over the speakers. A few people noticed the groom wasn't waiting at the altar. But no one spoke. They whispered, sure. Some checked their phones. My Facebook post had begun to circulate. Screens glowed in pockets. Brows furrowed. Still, no one stood up. They were curious now. Hooked. Let them watch. From behind the curtains at the back of the ballroom, I stepped into the spotlight alone. No music. No fanfare. Just me, walking in front of the guests who came expecting to see a wedding. Mothers. Cousins. Coworkers. High school friends. Old neighbors. Jessica's aunt from Denver, mouth open mid-gasp. No bride beside me. I reached the altar and stood still. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the camera stream I had mounted above the floral arch, quietly broadcasting to the custom site we'd rigged up hours ago. I took the mic from its stand. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice calm, clear, almost serene. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I planned on sharing that joy with all of you, as I stood beside the woman I loved and made her my wife. But sometimes, life doesn't go according to plan. I looked straight into the crowd. I could see people shifting in their seats, eyes narrowing, lips pursing. Instead of vows, I want to share a story. A short one. A true one. And don't worry, it has pictures. The projector screen behind me lit up. First slide. A still frame from the hotel hallway security cam. Jessica and Tim, holding hands. Her looking over her shoulder. Gasps. Audible, sharp. One woman's hand flew to her mouth. Second slide. Them kissing. Tim's shirt off. Her robe askew. A man in the second row, Jessica's uncle, I think, shouted, "What the hell is this?" I didn't blink. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. Hours before this ceremony, the woman I was supposed to marry decided to run off with my best man. Not days ago. Not weeks ago. Today. Third slide. The blurry video still. The one from inside room 211. I didn't need to show more. I just needed to prove. Jessica stood in the back now, frozen. She hadn't sat down. Her eyes were glassy. Red around the edges. She'd lost all color. Some of you might be wondering why I'm doing this. Why I drag this out in front of friends and family. But see, I'm not dragging anything. I'm setting it free. This isn't revenge. This is a wake-up call for anyone who's ever felt something was off and ignored it. For anyone who's ever trusted someone with their soul, only to have it spit back in their face. A silence had settled in now. Heavy. Uneasy. I'm not walking away from this marriage. I'm walking away from a lie. And I wanted to do it standing tall. In front of all of you. Unashamed. I clicked one more slide. The link to the live stream site. The screen now showed the title of the charity, Married and Betrayed, a fundraiser for the screwed over. We're also live right now. If you're watching online, welcome. Donations are open. Every dollar goes to help real people stuck in messes like mine. Because yeah, it sucks. But it doesn't have to end here. And then I said nothing. I let the silence breathe. Let them sit with it. Let the air get thick. Jessica stepped forward finally, her voice trembling. "You're humiliating me." I turned to her, slow and steady. "You humiliated us. You and Tim made this choice. I'm just making sure it gets the audience it deserves." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. Maybe the man she thought would collapse, cry, beg, that version of me was gone. Killed the moment she opened that hotel door in his t-shirt. She didn't say another word. And neither did I. I placed the mic back on the stand. Then I walked down the aisle. Alone. One step at a time. With everyone watching. With whispers turning into stunned silence. With my phone in my pocket, already vibrating with incoming donations. And behind me, on that giant screen, the truth kept playing on loop. By the time I stepped out of the ballroom and into the hotel corridor, the stream had over 6,000 viewers. 6,000. People were sharing it faster than I could process. Comments flooded in. Donations started climbing like wildfire. $5, 10, 50. One dude dropped 500 with the note, "This is better than cable." I should have felt humiliated. Maybe a part of me did. But the bigger part, the louder part, felt something else entirely. Power. I wasn't the abandoned groom anymore. I was the guy who turned his ruin into a reckoning. Behind me, the ballroom was chaos. Voices rising. Chairs scraping. People arguing about whether it was cruel or deserved. I even heard someone yell "preach" when the video looped again. And Jessica? I didn't care where she went. Let her crawl into whatever hole she could still find. Let her and Tim whisper about damage control while the whole world met the truth. I didn't have a plan past that moment. Just adrenaline and momentum. My phone was burning in my hand. I opened the stream dashboard. Lucas had added a ticker that displayed the total donations at the top. $8,320 raised. In under 10 minutes. I called him. "Bro," he answered, winded, laughing. "You broke my bandwidth cap. This thing's viral. Reddit's on it. Twitter's on it. TMZ sent a DM asking for rights." "Tell them no," I said immediately. Even if they pay? Especially if they pay. This isn't for them. This is ours. There was a pause. Then Lucas lowered his voice. You okay, man? That question hung in the air. Was I? I was standing in a hotel hallway in a $1,000 tuxedo, streaming my own humiliation to the internet like a gladiator in digital coliseum. Was I okay? No. I was alive. I ended the call and headed back upstairs to my suite. The hotel staff, God bless them, had stayed out of it. No one stopped me. No one dared. I opened the door and stepped into the quiet, untouched suite. The tux bag still hung in the corner. The bottle of champagne we were supposed to open after the ceremony still sat chilling in the ice bucket. I popped it. Why not? I took a swig straight from the bottle, bitter bubbles hitting the back of my throat like acid and steel. It tasted like defiance. Then the knock came. Again. I stood still for a moment, bottle in hand. Knock. Louder this time. I opened it. And there he was. Tim. No jacket. Tie undone. Face flushed. Breath reeking of nerves and cheap cologne. I need to explain, he said. I stepped aside without a word. Let him in. He walked in like a man on trial. Which, in a way, he was. You've said a lot of things, he started, turning to face me. Publicly. Things that make me look like the worst kind of man. You are the worst kind of man, I replied. I didn't mean for this to happen. Don't say that. Don't reduce what you did to an accident. A dropped plate is an accident. You made choices. He ran a hand through his hair. It started months ago. I was drunk one night, just was venting about you, about how you were always working, always planning stuff like she didn't have a say. I don't know. It just happened. I narrowed my eyes. So you thought the solution was to screw your best friend's fiancé behind his back? I didn't plan it. It was one mistake, then another. And then, it became this thing we couldn't stop. And this morning? I asked, voice ice cold. That was just another thing you couldn't stop? He said nothing. I trusted you, I said. Do you understand that? I defended you. When she said you were acting weird at the engagement party, I said you were just stressed. When my mom said you were too close to Jess, I said you were just loyal. I covered for you. His eyes dropped. So why are you here, Tim? What do you want? Forgiveness? Redemption? No, he whispered. I want you to stop the stream. I stared at him. He wasn't sorry. He was scared. I stepped forward until I was just inches from his face. I hope you feel this moment for the rest of your life. Every time you lose a friend. Every time someone doubts you. Every time your name comes up and people ask, isn't that the guy who? He swallowed hard. Get out, I said. He hesitated. Get out. He turned and left. I closed the door behind him. The stream? Still going. Still climbing. $12,640 raised. And the night was still young. Back in the ballroom, the wedding was unofficially over, but no one had left. Not really. People stood in little clusters, whispering like they were afraid the walls might be listening. The music had stopped. The cake stood untouched, towering and beautiful and meaningless. My mother sat stiffly in a chair near the front, staring straight ahead like she was trying to solve a riddle only she could see. Jessica's father looked ready to explode. Her mother looked like she'd swallowed battery acid. And Jessica? She'd vanished. The stream had passed $15,000. I paced the suite like a caged animal, one eye on the donation ticker, the other on the chat feed. The comments were unhinged, some cruel, some sympathetic, all electric. This is the most legendary thing I've ever seen. Bro turned heartbreak into HBO. My girl cheated on me with my cousin. Can I get a link to that charity? Where's the full video? I need closure. Justice. Served. Cold. That last one stuck with me. I screenshotted it. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. A voice came through, one I hadn't heard in years. Ethan? It's Rachel. Rachel. Jessica's former maid of honor. Her ex-best friend. They had a falling out a couple years back. Something vague about jealousy, boundaries, lies. Jessica told me not to ask questions. So I didn't. Now here she was, calling me. I saw the stream, she said. And I'm not calling to say sorry. I'm calling because I think you deserve to know something. I went quiet. She continued. Jessica didn't just cheat on you with Tim. My chest tightened. What? She's done this before. You weren't the first. And I'm guessing you wouldn't have been the last. She was seeing someone else last year while you were in New York for work. A guy named Drew. Bartender at that rooftop bar downtown. My stomach churned. The night she called me late, saying she missed me. The times I cut meetings short just to FaceTime her. The random hang-ups. The phone died excuses. You're sure? I caught her, Rachel said. She was bragging to me about it. Laughing. I told her she was disgusting. She told me I was jealous. That's why I stopped talking to her. That's why she never wanted me near you again. I sat down hard. I didn't call back then because I figured she'd move on to someone new and you'd be lucky to dodge a bullet. But seeing what she did to you today, I couldn't stay quiet. I thanked her. I don't even remember how I ended the call. Everything was unraveling faster now. Jessica hadn't just stumbled into betrayal with Tim. This wasn't a one-time lapse or a heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was her pattern. She lied with ease, played roles like a professional. And I was just the longest-running mark. The main character in the love story she could use to distract from all the side plots. I stood and looked at the suite, at the broken glass I hadn't bothered to clean, at the half-empty bottle of champagne sweating on the table. She hadn't just broken my heart. She'd weaponized it, used it as a shield to hide behind while she built a side life in shadows. But now the light was on, and I was holding the damn flashlight. I sat back at the laptop and typed up a second message for the stream viewers. Update. Turns out the bride has a longer history than we thought. More to come. Also, we just passed $18,000. Every dollar goes to helping betrayed spouses with legal fees and counseling. Keep sharing. Let's make this hurt where it counts. As soon as I posted it, Lucas pinged me. Lucas, dude. CNN just emailed me. They want to do a segment. Me. Tell them the only thing we're broadcasting is the truth. They want it. They can donate. A knock came again. This time I didn't answer. I just shouted through the door, if it's Jessica, she can go to hell. If it's Tim, he can join her. But it wasn't either of them. It was the hotel manager. Mr. Quinn, he said gently, peering in. I just want to say, what you did today was something else. We've had weddings here for 15 years. I've never seen anything like it. I raised a brow. You kicking me out? Not at all. But we're getting interview requests. Paparazzi are already outside. Do you want to keep the ballroom open? Or should we shut it down? I thought about it. I really did. Then I smiled. Keep it open. Because this wedding wasn't over. Not until everyone knew exactly who Jessica really was. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sit down, either. My legs never stopped pacing. The hotel suite buzzed like the inside of a generator. Emails, texts, missed calls, interview requests, podcast invites, 2 lawyers offering pro bono services for anyone impacted by marital fraud. Some startup founder offered to match every dollar raised by morning. I was hallucinating from adrenaline and sheer disbelief. By 3 in the morning, we'd passed $41,000. But none of it, was the part one couldn't shake. It was the silence. Jessica hadn't reached out. Not once. No text. No call. No voicemail. After everything I dropped on her, after the footage, the public call-out, the live stream, the crowd in the ballroom gasping at her little hotel performance, she hadn't even tried to spin it. Which made one thing very clear. She didn't think she needed to. And that was worse than anything else. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit and wait for her to crawl back with tears and excuses. I wasn't going to let this story fizzle out like some viral post that disappears in 24 hours. No. I was going to finish it my way. I took the elevator down to the hotel lobby. It was 4:30 in the morning, dead quiet except for the night staff wiping down the marble floors. I nodded to the guy at the desk. He nodded back. Word had spread. He knew who I was. Outside, the city was gray-blue and wet. Rain from earlier still slicked the pavement. The air had that heavy, damp stillness before sunrise. I stood there, just breathing, just letting the cold hit me. Then I walked. For 2 hours. No destination. No goal. Just movement. I passed alleyways, bakeries just starting to open, late-shift nurses laughing in scrubs near a bus stop. People who didn't know me, didn't know her, didn't know anything about the fire I just walked through. I envied them. By the time I got back to the hotel, it was daylight. I went straight to the bar and ordered eggs, toast, and a double bourbon. The bartender gave me a look, but said nothing. I wasn't the first man to hit rock bottom at his counter, but maybe I was the first to live stream it. As I sat down, sipping from the glass, someone slid into the seat beside me. It was Jessica's father. I hadn't spoken to him since the engagement dinner. He was a big man, quiet, conservative, had that firm, old-school vibe, button-down sleeves, never said, "I love you," but always showed up with a checkbook when it mattered. Now, he looked like he hadn't slept either. "Ethan," he said, low and stiff. "Do you have a minute?" I turned, unsure if I was about to be punched or sued. He looked straight ahead at the row of bottles. I raised my daughter wrong. I blinked. What? I made her think appearances mattered more than consequences. That as long as she looked the part, she was the part. That money and smiles and smooth lies could clean up anything. I said nothing. He sipped his coffee. Black. No sugar. "She's my daughter," he continued. "And I love her. But what she did, there's no excuse. I saw that footage. And what you did in that ballroom. I've never seen a man handle betrayal with such composure." I couldn't speak. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. Not for her. Not even for myself. I just wanted you to hear it from someone in her family. You were right. You did the right thing. Even if it was ugly. Even if it hurt." I nodded slowly. "Thanks." He stood to leave. Paused. Looked down at his watch. "One more thing," he said. "Jessica flew out early this morning. Back to her mother's place. In Arizona." My jaw clenched. "Ran, huh?" He nodded. "She'll have to live with that. The whole world knows now. That's not going away." As he walked off, I realized something. She wasn't going to face me. She was done pretending. No confrontation. No fight. No closure. And somehow, that made this feel unfinished. So I texted Lucas. "Me, can we extend the stream?" "Lucas, bro. It's still going. Still 2K people watching the loop. Want to do another drop?" "Me. I want to tell the whole story." "Lucas. Of?" "Me. Her. All of it. Timeline. Messages. Doubts. Every sign I ignored. I want people to see how it happens. How someone gets lied to and doesn't even see it." "Lucas. Like a documentary?" "Me. Exactly." "Lucas. Title?" I stared out the window. Eyes locked on the city I thought I was going to start a marriage in. "Me. Anatomy of a Wedding Day hit job." "Lucas. Going live in an hour." It was time to show the world not just what happened, but how she made it happen. It began with a whiteboard. A literal whiteboard, borrowed from the hotel's conference room. I rolled it into my suite at 7:30 a.m., still dressed like the ghost of a groom. The front desk manager had given me a nod and said, "Take whatever you need." I think they were as invested in this as the rest of the country by now. The donations had passed $56,000. The live chat was still buzzing. People were screen recording everything. Reactions were going viral on TikTok. Someone started a Reddit megathread titled "The Wedding Expose That Broke the Internet." But I wasn't doing this for the numbers anymore. This was surgery. I wanted to cut open the body of my relationship with Jessica, piece by piece, and show the infection hiding beneath the skin. I wanted to teach people how this kind of betrayal grows, quietly, subtly, until one day you wake up and realize you've been sleeping beside a stranger. So I wrote her name at the top of the board, Jessica. Then, under it, 5 years. Engagement, 16 months. Affair, confirmed at least 6 weeks. Probably longer. I broke the timeline down into colors: green for truth, red for lies, yellow for unknown but suspicious. I marked the first red flag, that Vegas trip for her friend's birthday. The one where she said her phone got stolen and she was off-grid for 2 days. 2 full days. No contact. And I believed her. Slide 1. A selfie she sent after she got back, smiling in a hotel mirror. In the background, a second toothbrush. Not hers. I hadn't noticed it back then. I noticed now. Then, the deleted messages. 6 months ago, I caught a glimpse of her WhatsApp notifications. 2 names I didn't recognize. I asked. She said they were work friends. That she deleted old convos to clear space. I bought it. Slide 2. A blurry screenshot I dug up from an old backup of her phone. Her sitting beside a guy in a bar. Not Tim. Not Drew, either. Another one. Mystery man number 3. I stepped into frame in front of the camera. "We're live again," I said. "And this time, I'm not just showing you what happened. I'm showing you how it happened. This is for every person who's been told they're paranoid. For every gut feeling that got laughed off. For every, it's not what it looks like, that actually was what it looked like." The chat blew up instantly. Comments scrolled like slot reels. I moved through the timeline. I showed the engagement party, Jessica glued to Tim's side the whole night. The way she smiled more at his jokes than mine. How she flinched when I tried to kiss her during the toast. "Here," I said, tapping the screen on a freeze frame. "Watch her body language. Distance. Leaning away. She wasn't even subtle." Then I pulled up the guestbook messages from our wedding website. Tim's message: "Can't wait to stand beside my brother as he starts this next chapter." I zoomed in. Brother. Not best friend. Not buddy. Brother. That's how close I thought we were. I flipped the board. On the back, messages. Screenshots. Password-protected emails I'd recovered with Lucas's help. One from Jessica to someone listed only as J, sent 3 weeks ago. "I don't want to marry him. But it's too late. My parents spent so much already. And I need to keep the optics clean. After the honeymoon, I'll figure it out. For now, I'll just go through with it. Get the ring. Then, who knows?" That was the kill shot. I stared directly into the lens. I was logistics to her. A checklist. A performance. She planned to marry me as a placeholder. Just long enough to milk the image. Donations hit $70,000. But what mattered more were the comments now pouring in from others. My ex did the same. I ignored the signs. This is like watching my past unfold in 4K. "Thank you for this. No one talks about it this way." I kept going. Not out of spite. Out of purpose. I pulled out the last board. The one labeled Aftermath. On it, screenshots from messages I'd received since the stream began. Other women who'd been cheated on by Tim. 2 of them from as far back as college. One dated him. The other? Married woman. Same story. Same pattern. Secret meetups. Gaslighting. Silence. Tim was predatory. Jessica was opportunistic. Together, they weren't a tragic love story. They were a con. I ended the stream on a quiet note. I don't know if I'll ever trust again. I don't know if I'll date again. But I know this. I see clearly now. And maybe that's what surviving betrayal really means. I reached forward. Clicked in stream. The number on the donations? $81,920. And counting. At some point that evening, the hotel offered me a penthouse upgrade on the house. Said it was for privacy, but I think it was their way of saying, "Please don't ruin us if this goes nuclear." I accepted. The suite was 3 times bigger than my apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, gold trim on everything, marble counters that felt too cold to touch. It was meant for champagne and honeymoon nights, not whatever this was. But I wasn't here to rest. I was here to finish this war with the same blade I'd been using since the moment she fled that ballroom. Truth. And truth, I was discovering, didn't stop bleeding once you cut it open. By nightfall, people weren't just watching. They were digging. Viewers had begun sending me more messages. Screenshots. Threads. A woman from Chicago messaged to say her fiancé had called off their wedding after watching my stream. Said it shook something loose. Another man sent a photo of his wife crying, saying he finally believed her about his own brother's betrayal. What I'd done, what started as a desperate grasp for dignity, had turned into something else entirely. A purge. Then Lucas texted me again. "Lucas, dude, you might want to sit down." Me. Why? Lucas, Tim. He did a podcast. My chest went cold. Me. What? Lucas. Just dropped. He went on the men's table, that podcast with the gym bros who think betrayal is just alpha instincts. They're letting him explain his side. Me. Link. Now. I opened the episode. And there he was. On camera. Tim, in a hoodie, messy hair, playing the victim. "I didn't want this to be public," he said, eyes cast down like a kicked puppy. "I never meant to hurt anyone. Ethan and I, we were like brothers, yeah. And what happened between Jess and me wasn't right. But people don't understand, sometimes, feelings happen. You don't choose love. Love chooses you." I nearly threw the laptop across the room. But I didn't. I watched. Every second. Because this wasn't just a bad apology. It was a strategy. He was reframing the story. trying to make betrayal sound romantic, honest, even noble. He didn't deny the affair. He just romanticized it. Said he and Jessica felt something neither of them expected and were trying to figure out how to do the right thing in the wrong moment. The host nodded like Tim was reciting poetry instead of rewriting history. I've reached out to Ethan, Tim lied. Tried to apologize. I still care about him. But the hate I've been getting? The comments, the threats, it's gone too far. The hosts patted him on the back, called him brave. That's when it hit me. This wasn't going to end cleanly. Not anymore. Tim wasn't hiding. He was flipping the script. He wanted sympathy. He wanted followers. I opened my own stream page again. Viewer count had dipped since I ended the Doka drop earlier, but people were still commenting, still donating, still asking for more. They weren't done. And neither was I. This wasn't about a ruined wedding anymore. This was a full-blown narrative war. And I had ammunition. I'd been quiet about Jessica's inner circle, her bridesmaids, her coworkers, her little support squad that had always seemed too loyal. I'd kept their names out of it. But not anymore. I reached out to Rachel again. Did you ever suspect anyone else knew? Her reply was instant. Oh, they knew. Trust me. I wasn't the only one she bragged to. Dana, her work BFF, used to cover for her. Fake appointments. Alibis. I bet she even knew about Tim. So I checked Dana's Instagram. Sure enough, 3 days before the wedding, she'd posted a pic of herself, Jessica, and Tim at a rooftop bar. Caption, best crew. Best energy. Secrets don't keep themselves. Red heart. My blood boiled. The crew covered for it. Encouraged it. Celebrated it. I opened my camera. Hit record. Looks like the podcast boys are trying to turn this into a love story, I said calmly, coldly. Let me remind you all what love doesn't look like. I spliced the clip of Tim's podcast denial with raw messages I'd received from women he'd ghosted. I added screenshots of Jessica's inner circle coordinating alibi weekends. And at the end, I dropped one last truth bomb. A copy of their Airbnb reservation from 2 months ago, Jessica and Tim, booked under a burner email. But the contact number? Jessica's actual phone. No one could argue anymore. They weren't victims of feelings. They were planners. I titled the new video, "The Cowards Try to Spin It. Here's the Truth They Can't Scrub." Uploaded. Shared. Within 20 minutes, I got a DM from the podcast host. Take it down or we'll come after you for defamation. I replied with a screenshot of their own terms and conditions. And a donation update, $94,780. Come after me, I wrote. I've got the truth. What do you have? A hoodie and a fantasy. The war had gone public. But they picked the wrong groom to screw with. Because I wasn't just exposing betrayal anymore. I was building a reckoning. It was just past midnight when the number rolled over. $100,002. 6 figures. Raised not with corporate sponsorships or marketing teams, but with heartbreak, fury, truth. All from a hotel suite that still smelled faintly of roses and burnt nerve endings. I stared at the number on the screen like it was a hallucination. But it wasn't. $100,000 because my fiancée decided to fumble the most sacred day of our lives with my best friend. And somehow, I made it cost her. But the money wasn't the victory. It was what came next. The silence was over. Jessica had finally cracked. The first email hit my inbox at 12:14 a.m., subject line, "For what it's worth." From her personal account, I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Ethan, I know you'll probably delete this. Maybe you won't even read it. I don't blame you. But I've been watching. I saw the stream. I saw the footage. I heard the words you said, and I couldn't sleep until I tried to say anything back. Yes, it happened. All of it. There's no excuse. I could try to blame the pressure, my insecurities, your schedule, the way we started to drift, how Tim made me feel seen, but that would just be deflecting. The truth is, I betrayed you. Over and over. And the way I handled it was vile. I was a coward. I still am. You didn't deserve any of this. You were good to me. Too good. And I think some part of me hated you for it, because it made me feel small. Unworthy. I sabotaged everything because deep down I never believed I deserved someone like you. I won't ask for forgiveness. But I will say this. I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for turning it into a lie that cost you something pure. Jessica. I read it 3 times, and then I closed it. Because now she wanted to find her conscience? Now that her friends were losing followers? Now that sponsors were pulling out of Tim's podcast? Now that her clean optics were splattered with betrayal in every color imaginable? Too little. Too late. But something clicked in my head after reading it. Something cold and precise. This wasn't about apology anymore. It was about finality. So I made a plan. One last act. I reached out to Lucas and asked, how fast can you set up a limited event stream? Like, live only. One-time viewing. No archive. He paused. For what? A funeral. Jesus. For her. For the version of me that believed in her. It took 2 hours. At exactly 3 a.m., I titled the stream, The Wake. In the stream's thumbnail, I posted a black and white photo of me and Jessica from Happier Times. One of the engagement shoot photos we never ended up using. I wore a black hoodie, sat in a single spotlight, surrounded by wedding gifts unopened, wrapping paper and champagne flutes and glittery gift bags from people who still thought love was sacred. I spoke softly. No anger. No fire. Just the truth, one last time. I know some of you have been here since the first stream. Others found your way in because the story felt too insane to be real. But this isn't about drama anymore. This is closure. Not just for me, for every person who's ever been cheated, betrayed, ghosted, or made to feel like they imagined their own destruction. I pulled out a stack of cards, handwritten vows I'd prepared weeks ago. I read them, one by one, slowly, steadily. A few of them made me choke. One made me laugh. Another brought me to the edge of tears. Then I lit a match, dropped the vows into a metal bowl beside me. Let them burn. I'm not doing this to be dramatic. I'm doing this because every memory I had of her was tied to these words. These promises. They were mine, and now I'm freeing them. I pulled up a final slide. A quote. Sometimes, the closure you need isn't a door swinging shut. It's the silence after the slam. Donations passed $114,000 as the stream ended. But this time, I didn't watch the numbers climb. I shut the laptop, stood up, and opened the window. The sky outside was beginning to lighten. Not full sunrise yet, just that first hint of color that whispers you survived the night. And I had. But Jessica hadn't just lost me. She'd buried the man who once believed in her. And this was his funeral. I woke up 3 hours later on the couch of the penthouse suite, still in the same black hoodie, a crusted whiskey glass on the table beside me, my phone buzzing so hard it had fallen to the floor. I ignored it. For once, I didn't need an update. The numbers didn't matter anymore. The comments, the retweets, the YouTube React videos, they were background noise now. Because today was the day after. The morning no one plans for. The one you don't see coming when you buy the ring, write the vows, rent the venue. It's not on the calendar. It doesn't have a name, but it changes everything. I sat up slowly. My back screened. My head throbbed. And then I saw it on the hotel room desk, slid beneath the door while I'd slept. An envelope. No name. Just a hotel branded, with our apologies, sticker sealing the flap. Inside was a short letter, handwritten in sharp, blocky cursive. We didn't want you to find out this way, but she never planned to stay. She said you'd forgive anything as long as it was handled clean. So we helped. At first. Covered for her. Then it got darker. She wanted to marry you for stability. To reset her image. We didn't know how deep it went until the week before. You deserved better. I'm sorry we didn't warn you. Dana. Jessica's so-called work BFF. Maid of honor stand-in. One of the women I deliberately avoided naming in my expose because I thought maybe she was just a bystander. But this was a confession. I opened my laptop, and sure enough, new footage was already circulating online. Paparazzi had caught Tim trying to sneak out the back of his podcast studio. Jessica had reportedly been denied a speaking opportunity at a luxury retreat in Scottsdale. One of their mutual friends had posted a TikTok titled, "We were told to keep quiet. Here's why I won't anymore." The floodgates weren't just open now. They were broken, and they were drowning in their own lies. Lucas had texted 3 times. Lucas, you good? Lucas, it's trending #1 globally. Lucas, you won, man. But that word sat wrong in my chest. 1. What does that even mean in a story like this? That I came out richer? Wiser? Famous? That I didn't fold like they expected? That I weaponized the truth harder than they weaponized the lie? Maybe. But I wasn't standing on some moral victory hill. I was still in a hotel robe, dehydrated, mentally shredded, with wedding bands I'd never used still resting in their little velvet box by the TV remote. So no, I didn't feel like I'd won. Not yet. Because this story, my story, still had one move left. And I hadn't played it. I showered, shaved, got dressed. Simple black shirt, jeans, clean sneakers. No drama. No costume. Just a man closing his own loop. Then I asked the concierge for Jessica's forwarding address. They hesitated, of course. But then I showed them the message from her father, his quiet approval of how I handled everything. His apology. His words. They folded. Arizona. I didn't book a flight. I booked a courier. Inside a locked, black envelope, I placed 5 things. A printed screenshot of the donation total, $127,480. A copy of the handwritten vow she never heard. The burner Airbnb reservation receipt, highlighted. A printed transcript of her own message to Jay, I just need to get through the ceremony. Then I'll figure it out. And finally, the ring. Not the fake one I'd considered replacing it with for drama. The real one. The one I'd chosen after 3 jewelry stores and 6 weeks of saving. The one I once imagined sliding onto her finger while she cried happy tears. It sat in its little black box. And on the inside of the envelope, I wrote, "This isn't revenge. This is what truth looks like when you can't lie fast enough to outrun it. You didn't break me. You unburied me." I handed it off. No cameras. No stream. No upload. No theatrics. This moment was just for her. The final nail in the coffin of the woman she pretended to be. Then I returned to the window. Same skyline. Different man. And for the first time in 2 days, I smiled. Not because it was over, but because I finally understood. The wedding wasn't the ceremony. It was everything I chose to walk away from. I didn't go back to my apartment right away. Instead, I stayed in that penthouse suite for one more night. Not because I needed the space, but because I wanted to feel the quiet. The kind that only shows up after the fire's done eating through the walls. I opened the window, let the cold air roll through, sat on the floor, and just listened. To the nothing. To the ache. That silence? It was sacred. The ring was gone. The videos were archived. The account had stopped collecting donations, frozen at $132,947.31, with the final influx arriving after a Reddit AMA I never even promoted. People just found it. One guy wrote, "I watched your wedding expose with my dad. He hasn't spoken to me since my mom cheated on him 5 years ago. He cried when you burned the vows. Then he hugged me. First time in years. Thank you." I read that one twice. Then I shut the laptop and never opened it again. Because this wasn't online anymore. It had stopped being viral. It had become real. That's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal. It doesn't just shatter your heart. It rewrites your perception. You start revisiting every scene of your relationship like a detective at a crime scene, reinterpreting every glance, every smile, every "I love you" under the microscope of what you now know. But that's not living. That's autopsy. And I was done with it. I checked out the next morning with a single suitcase, 1 pair of shoes, and no forwarding address. The hotel staff stood in silence as I walked past, one of them nodding gently, like I was a soldier returning home from war. But I wasn't going home. Not to that home. Instead, I drove 2 hours up the coast, parked at a beach I'd visited once with Jessica before things got serious, and left my phone in the glove compartment. I walked the shoreline alone for nearly 40 minutes before I stopped. That's when I saw him. Not Tim. Not some stranger. Me. Reflected in a tide pool. Pale from the sleepless days. Eyes worn. But upright. Breathing. Alive. I stood there until the waves came in and swallowed the reflection whole. There was no dramatic monologue. No slow clap. No angels singing in resolution. Just the tide. Doing what it always does. Taking away what no longer needs to be held. I sat on a rock and pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket. One final note I'd written the night before. Not for Jessica. Not for the stream. For me. You were not stupid. You were sincere. You were not weak. You were willing. You loved like it mattered. Because it did. And that's not your shame. That's her loss. I read it once. Then I tore it in half. Let the wind take the pieces. No more symbols. No more fire. No more spectacle. Just forward. That's the real revenge in the end. Not the humiliation. Not the stream. Not even the money. It's surviving. It's walking into a life you never planned for. Eyes open, spine straight, no more illusions. Because love isn't the ceremony. It's what happens when no one's watching. And betrayal? That's just the noise that gets out of your way when you're finally ready to begin.